The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome. You are now entering the Stone Zone, and I'm your genial host, Roger Stone. Well, while President Donald Trump fights to hold together a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Iran, it seems like fighting has broken out in the MAGA movement. Mark Levin is attacking Steve Bannon and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Laura Loomer is attacking Tulsi Gabbard and Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is returning fire. Matt Gaetz is attacking Mark Levin. In all honesty, the time for this discussion, and I would have lowered the decibels, was before the president made his decision. Now, as a 50-year veteran of American politics, as a veteran of 13 national presidential campaigns, I say it's time to rally around the commander-in-chief. Now, I'm an anti-interventionist Republican. I'm certainly no fan of the neocons and their record of endless war. I'm the guy who wrote the Bush crime family. I'm no fan of the war in Iraq, but the difference between what President Trump has done and that war is like day and night. First of all, in Iraq, we never had any plausible reason. Our inherent national interests were not clear. We were told two lies. Vice President Dick Cheney told us that the regime in Iraq had yellow cake uranium with which they were going to build nuclear bombs. That was a lie. And he continued to imply that the Iraqis were involved in the attack on America on 9/11. A second lie. $500 million later and 18 years, and that was a costly mistake made by people who were neocons. This has been a more surgical operation. There are no boots on the ground, and there isn't going to be. An end is in sight. And even in the response in which the Iranians attacked a U.S. base in Qatar, this was all for show. They called the leadership of Qatar to tell the Americans to clear everybody out of the base so that nobody was injured, but it didn't really matter because all of their incoming missiles were intercepted. So it appears to me to be for appearances. But I would warn everybody in the MAGA movement that we have a midterm election coming up, and fighting among ourselves at a time when we only have a 3-seat margin in the House is folly. In the meantime, Al Green, not the singer, the congressman from Texas, you remember him, he's the guy who had to be removed from the chamber of Congress because he kept yelling at the president and wildly swinging his cane during the State of the Union address. He has now filed articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. He argues incorrectly that the decision by President Trump to surgically strike the 3 nuclear weapons development sites in Iran violates international law. Interestingly enough, the head of NATO, hardly a pro-Trump organization, says that that's not accurate. I haven't heard from the UN yet, but I would remind everybody in the MAGA camp that now is the time to support this president rather than bickering amongst ourselves. I'm pretty pugnacious, but I'm not attacking anybody. In fact, my criticism of Ted Cruz was written and published before the president made a decision on Sunday to deliver this devastating blow against the Iranians. And he was very clear. He said 15 times, I checked it, during the campaign, that it would not be acceptable for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This is a president who means what he says and says what he means. In the meantime, President Trump has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize over the Iran-Israel conflict. A House lawmaker has nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize after he brokered the ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran. Congressman Buddy Carter, Republican of Georgia, wrote to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee declaring that Trump had, quote, an extraordinary and historic role in having ended the armed conflict between Israel and Iran, preventing the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism from obtaining the most lethal weapon on the planet. Trump declared the 12-day war was ending late yesterday afternoon with a ceasefire that was meant to go into effect overnight today. It ends just over a week after Israel first launched their preemptive strike against Iran, arguing that Tehran was dangerously close to obtaining a nuclear weapon. The two countries subsequently traded rocket fire over the following days and over the weekend, but the UN launched its own devastating airstrikes on three of Iran's key nuclear facilities on Sunday. Iran, as I said previously, responded by shooting rockets at a U.S. air base in Qatar on Monday, but not without giving advance notice to the United States and to the Qatari officials. No injuries were reported in that attack. So President Trump's influence was instrumental in forging a swift agreement that many believed was actually impossible. President Trump also took bold, decisive action to halt Iran's nuclear ambitions and ensure that the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism remained incapable of acquiring a nuclear weapon. This is precisely what Congressman Carter said in his letter to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. Now, he said that Trump's leadership through the crisis exemplifies the very ideals that the Nobel Peace Prize seeks to recognize: the pursuit of peace, the prevention of war, and the advancement of international harmony. In a region plagued by historical animosity and political volatility, such a breakthrough demands both courage and clarity. President Trump has, I think, demonstrated both, offering the world a rare glimpse of hope. For all of these reasons, I really hope that the elitists on the Nobel Peace Prize Committee will give Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States, the Nobel Peace Prize. But folks, do not hold your breath. This is not the first time that Trump has been nominated for the prize, although he's never been awarded the prize. Congressman Darrell Issa, Republican of California, tapped Trump for the prize just earlier this year, arguing that his 2024 electoral victory had an astonishingly effective impact on peace in the world. On Truth Social, President Trump himself wrote, both Israel and Iran wanted to stop the war equally. It was my great honor to destroy all nuclear facilities and capabilities and then stop this war. Yesterday, in announcing the ceasefire, Trump wrote, congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed to by both Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from the time this was written, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final mission. So he let them take shots at each other, I guess for the theatrics, for the optics, but that was only to last for 12 hours, at which point the war can be considered ended, the president's words. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and then upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, the president said, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, for having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should have been called the 12-day war. Now, this is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't. And now, I think, thanks to the leadership of Donald Trump, it never will. The president went on to say, God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America. and Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, is the way he signed it. In another post later in the day, Trump wrote, "Now that we have peace abroad, we must finish the job here at home by passing the big, beautiful bill and getting the bill to my desk as soon as possible. It will be a historic precedent for the great people of the United States of America as we begin the celebration of our country's 250th birthday. We're finally entering our golden age, which will bring unprecedented safety, security, and prosperity for all of our citizens. So to my friends in the Senate," the president wrote, "lock yourself in the room if you must. Don't go home and get the deal done this week. Work with the House so they can pick it up and pass it immediately. So please, no one should go on vacation until it's done. Everyone, most importantly the American people, will be much better off thanks to our work together. Let's make America great again." In the meantime, President Trump has dared AOC, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, to try to impeach him. She's, of course, one of the liberal members of the squad, and she has talked about the president's impeachment over the U.S. strikes on Iranian's nuclear facilities. On Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Stupid AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. The reason for her ranting is all of the victories for the United States that have happened under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of our country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we will find out that she's not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than, say, Jasmine Crockett, who is a seriously low IQ individual, or more qualified than Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country, yet the failed country she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated as one of the worst in the world, if it's rated at all. How dare the mouse, as he calls her, tell us how to run the United States of America? We're now coming back from the radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, and the auto pen in charge. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical. As the doctor in charge says, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every answer right. Instead of the constant complaining, AOC should go back home to Queens, where I also was brought up, straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden neighborhood. You're listening to The Stone Zone. I'm Roger Stone, and we'll be right back.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So while ICE arrests and deportations have grabbed all the headlines, as I said, President Trump is running a separate but complementary voluntary mass deportation program, one that encourages people who are here illegally to go home voluntarily. And if the initial reports are correct, that plan is more successful than anyone could ever have imagined. Based on government data, the Center for Immigration Studies has conservatively estimated there are about 15.4 million illegal aliens in the United States, and that is a 50% increase over the 4 tumultuous years of the Biden administration. That's no surprise, really, given how Biden and his Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas ignored congressional detention mandates and ushered millions of illegal immigrants into the United States. Trump, of course, rode a wave of concerns about the costs and impact of these illegals on the schools, hospitals, housing, and essential government services in cities and towns across the United States. Also talking about the crime and drug epidemic that the open borders policy of the Biden administration caused. So now that he's back in the Oval Office, he and border czar Tom Homan, who I know quite well and is quite a tough customer, are driving the unauthorized population down and restoring credibility to our immigration system. So they've implemented a two-track plan to tackle this onerous task. One of those tracks relies on arrests and deportations of aliens unlawfully here, which at the outset was focused principally on people with criminal records, people who were convicted in their home countries or here of violence or other crimes. But the other track is much more subtle and also much less expensive for the taxpayers, and therefore arguably much more effective, encouraging illegal immigrants to self-deport. It began with an Inauguration Day Trump directive requiring the Department of Homeland Security to ensure all aliens present in the United States, legal and otherwise, have to register with the federal government and to prosecute those who did not comply. By late February, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security had implemented that registration program. Then DHS launched the multi-million-dollar ad campaign warning illegals not to enter the country and alternatively to leave voluntarily now and leaving open the possibility to return legally, get their citizenship, and enjoy the freedom that America can provide. This is typical of the outside-the-box thinking of President Donald Trump, who, as I say, is struggling to hold together a fragile ceasefire in the Middle East. Coming up next, retired Colonel Rob Maness, a 37-year veteran of the armed services, is going to talk to us about that ceasefire and what the prospects are for peace in the next coming period. I have a lot of questions because this seemed to happen so quickly. Military experts often disagree. I cannot wait to get Rob Maness's view on it. Stick with me here in the Stone Zone. We'll be right back. Whatever you do, please, please.
Dr. Howard DC, founder of Balance of Nature and formulator of the fruits and veggies and fiber and spice supplements, has teamed up with veterinarian Dr. Jake to create Dr. Fido's Dog Food Topper, a tasty, nutritious way to enrich your dog's meals. Just scoop, sprinkle, and stir. Here's what Dr. Jake had to say about his personal experience.
I've been using Dr. Fido's for 2 to 3 years now, and my personal dog is now a 16-year-old red heeler, and she is happier on the Dr. Fido's. I've been super impressed with it, and the nice thing about how it's presented is that the product mixed into dog food. It's that easy.
Call 888-388-7297 or go to drfidos.com. That's drphytos.com. And for a limited time, order now and receive a 10% discount with our money-back guarantee by using promo code APPLE.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Joining me now, retired Colonel Rob Maness. Rob Maness has a lifelong record. He provided service to his country, actually signing up in the U.S. Air Force as a 17-year-old high school senior and rising from an enlisted man all the way to be a colonel. He is someone that I go to for his geopolitical and military strategic thinking, someone who understands war incredibly, and we're very pleased to have him. Colonel Maness, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Hi, Roger. Thanks for having me back on.
So this is happened so quickly in this historic move. President Trump not only launched this surgical strike on Sunday on the 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. The Iranians immediately said that he did no real damage, that they had actually moved the development of their nuclear weapons program elsewhere. Did this have any credibility with you at all?
Well, we have seen some open source satellite imagery that is really timely. Just before the strikes, within a couple of days, that showed trucks at the Fort Al facility. I haven't seen any at the other facilities, though. So it's likely they probably tried to move some of their stuff. Did they get it all? I doubt it. That's a lot of equipment that they have in there, from what I understand. But to say that there was no damage is just really a dumb move, because we have post-strike satellite imagery from American military satellites, which is very good. And I counted 6 penetration holes from GBU-57s, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, Roger. And that means there were 12 put into that facility. It will be – now we have to wait on the official bomb damage assessment from the intelligence folks that are doing various types of techniques to do the assessment of how much damage was really done to that facility. But if there are 12 30,000-pound weapons that detonated inside that facility, I doubt there's much left that's usable in there, or if it's even enterable by human beings at this point. So, when the president used the term obliterated, I would assess that it's been obliterated, but, we're not going to know for sure until all of the BDA is finished. And the question about did they get anything out? I'm sure that our military and intelligence agencies, and so are our allies, I'm sure, the Israelis, who are very good at this too, are tracking on and tracking that stuff down if they think that it's possible.
Well, what surprised me was the extraordinary OPSEC, Operation Secrecy, in a town in which everything leaks, and in which President Trump, I think, had a great head fake in which he said, well, I'm going to make a decision in 2 weeks, only to strike 24 hours later. That in itself was exceptional. Never seen that before. Have you?
No. Well, I've seen it before, but not by the President of the United States. They usually try to have that individual appear to be most on the up and up. And he is credible. When he said it, he was credible. At first, I was like, wow, he's going to give him 2 more weeks. He's really trying to give diplomacy a chance, which he really is, too. When I say that, I sincerely mean President Trump's heart is in the right place. He is a president. He wants peace. He wants to end these. But the deception operation to achieve the tactical surprise that we did, Roger, that is the most effective deception operation in American combat history that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Anyway, it was incredible. The other thing that was incredible is that the B-2 fleet of aircraft is only 19 airplanes, and on any given day, only about 43 to 56% of those airplanes are what we call fully mission capable, which are capable of flying a combat mission and returning with the most probability. And they got 7 of those 19 aircraft over the target undetected. They hit the target as exactly the way they were asked to do it, with the weapons they were asked to do it with, all 3 targets anyway, and they left without being detected. Usually when bombs start going off, somebody figures out where the aircraft are, if there are bombers or fighters overhead, and they start at least firing dumb artillery rounds up in the air to try to hit something. Not even that happened, from what I understand. And then you put the Tomahawk land attack missiles that were fired off the submarines 2 hours before the airplanes got there, striking the 3rd target at Isfahan after the aircraft left. That's an incredible air campaign operation that our hats off's got to go to the maintenance personnel and the bomber air crews and all of the air crews of the 125 aircraft. And then, of course, the Israeli Air Forces and Defense Forces did a phenomenal job taking down the integrated air defense system that was a Russian system. So the Russians should be feeling pretty bad, and their clients that buy that system are probably looking at them going, hey, your stuff doesn't work.
So, as you know, President Trump's now called on Iran and Israel for this ceasefire. There have been instances already of both of them breaking the ceasefire. What do you think the chances are that President Trump can keep everybody in these two warring states in line?
I think he's the only president of the United States in our history that I would place a bet. I'm not a betting person. You can ask the guys I used to go to Red Flag in Las Vegas with. I didn't bet. I watched them, their money. But I would bet on the president to be able to get this to firm up and to make it something permanent. The Israelis, they asked us to come in, begged us, really. So we did. And the president negotiates a ceasefire. The one thing that happened there is the wheel of war turned, and the president of the United States became the commander-in-chief of all allied countries and forces. And Prime Minister Netanyahu needs to be paying attention to what is now commander-in-chief is asking to be done because they're working for us now.
Yeah, I made this point earlier in the show. I would like to see people in MAGA world, in Trump world, stop bickering. The decision's been made. Now, in my opinion, is the time to rally around the commander-in-chief. He has access to intelligence the average American does not have, that the average American pundit does not have. It was fine to have a debate prior to his making a national decision. This has to be a difficult decision for any president, but the time to have that debate was last week. Second-guessing the president, I think, is very damaging to the movement, and I think it disrespects the greatest president in my lifetime. I guess my greatest concern is the possibility of sleeper cells. Border Patrol has recently arrested a substantial number of fighting-age Iranian nationals near our border. How concerned are you about potential Iranian or Islamic sleeper cells here in America?
I'm very concerned, Roger. And on your point about supporting the mission, now that the commander-in-chief's made his decision, that's what we do, especially in the national security world. And I said this on air several times as we were talking about to the run-up of there. Once the boss makes the decision, it's our job to salute smartly and get on and support the mission and get it and help get it done. But the Iranians, I'm very concerned about that because over 1,500 Iranians that we know about were caught by the Biden administration, and they released over 450 of those Iranians back into the country. And that's not counting the Chinese military-age males that we know there's a communist and Islamist alliance that works at the working level all the time. So they probably have support in that regard. I live in South Mississippi, and the FBI arrested 11 of Iranians just today or late last night, and one of them was arrested in my home state and one in Alabama. So this is a national issue. People need to be exercising their Second Amendment rights responsibly and be ready and prepared for anything. Keep your head on a swivel and pay attention to what's going on, because more than likely, when they strike, they're going to strike at a soft target where there's very little security or law enforcement, if any at all, and it may come to a citizen to be able to defend themselves. We should do that, and it's our responsibility and duty to do that under the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah, I would remind you that under Joe Biden, we had perhaps the greatest single spy penetration of our national security apparatus since Alger Hiss. A man named Robert Malley, working at the State Department, was and is an Iranian spy. His associates, a woman named Tabatani, I believe it is, they suspended his security clearance, but that's it. He's never been prosecuted. They've never told us what it was. We do know that his associates, within 24 hours of the Israelis letting us know of some of their plans, that intelligence was passed on to the Iraqis. This is a stunning spy scandal, and some of these people still have their security clearances. It is really beyond belief.
Oh, yes, sir. And, Malley's associate, I believe she was made the executive assistant to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Counterterrorism, if I remember correctly. And even when President Trump took office, she was still in that position, and I don't know what the status of that is, but she should not be anywhere near anything in the Department of Defense, because you're right, that was a huge infiltration, and I'm sure caused grave damage to the United States of America.
You've written and spoken quite a bit about the dangers of the Chinese Communist Party and China as our greatest adversary, practicing unrestricted warfare since 2019, buying up land, ranch land, farmland, other valuable assets, infiltrating academia, operating secret biolabs, flying drones over our shipyards. Do you still believe that China is our greatest single national threat? And if so, how would you describe China's response to what has just happened to their client state, Iran?
I do believe that China is still our greatest threat. And one of the reasons why I supported President Trump is that he agrees with me, and he's appointing a team and getting it in place that is working fervently to correct our vision and our focus, so that we're focused on the Chinese Communist Party appropriately, and our allies are focused on their own problems more, as you know, the problems with NATO and Europe, and even now in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we had to get involved in this. As far as China's response to their client state, I think the president, the man that wrote The Art of the Deal, I have to keep reminding people that this man wrote The Art of the Deal, folks. He indicated in a tweet, I think it was late last night, that he might have made a deal with the Chinese about the oil that they buy from Iran, and that may be keeping them quiet. I haven't seen much since they made their initial statements, not really condemning it, but, in strong terms, but doing that. And if the president has figured out a way to make a deal with them about getting the oil, continuing to get the oil from the Iranians that they have always done, and that would be the main driver behind them taking any action in that conflict, or trying to take Taiwan by violence while we're distracted by that. That economic carrot, so to speak, is the thing that President Trump, from what I've seen of him, would try to use. And so I'm not surprised that he's done that, and I think he's successfully done that. And if this ceasefire can continue to hold, and we can get the Iranians to give up whatever may be left of their nuclear capabilities, if we think there's any there, and stop them from using their proxies and using their own weapons from firing on Israel, then the Chinese will probably fall in line, and it'll make our job in the Middle East of not totally disengaging, but making it a lower priority and focusing on the Indo-Pacific, which we have to do because of China's behavior. And we are in great peril by having all those Chinese military-age males inside the country, but plus the 270,000 students that are here on visas, plus they bought all that land, and that land is not surprisingly purchased near our strategic military installations. So we have much work to do to make sure that we're internally secure and focused externally on the right threat. And the biggest threat is still the Chinese Communist Party.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Stone Zone. I'm Roger Stone. We're talking to Colonel Rob Maness, and we'll be right back.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking about the historic ceasefire that President Donald Trump seems to have pulled together between the Iranians and Israel in the immediate aftermath of this historic surgical strike against 3 nuclear weapons development facilities in Iran. I'm still stunned at how quickly this has all played out. And Colonel Maness, I guess I would point out that even in the immediate aftermath of the attack, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who I think is really emerging as one of the major stars of this administration, and the president were immediately calling on the Iranians to return to the table, to return to peace talks, which makes him very different than the neocons who held those positions before him. I think we have a historic opportunity here. Donald Trump is a different kind of cat. And I think the world now sees that. He understands the folly of boots on the ground. He understands the folly of endless and expensive foreign war when the American people can't see why we're fighting, what our interest is. Here, I think he's been abundantly clear. Said from the beginning that the Iranians would not be allowed to have nuclear weapons. And he made a tough decision here. Every American, Republican, Democrat, Independent, even those who are not political, they should be rallying behind the commander-in-chief right now, not taking pot shots at his decisions.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is, you used the term historic, and I think it's even beyond historic, Roger. This country has been led by people you referred to a minute ago as neocons that have gotten us into these kinds of conflicts that are useless. They turn out to be meaningless. They're a disaster. They destroy our credibility. And most of all, they kill American kids. And they kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in some of these countries that we've gone into. Donald Trump is doing exactly what I thought he would do because of what he said in his campaigns, but also his actions as the 45th president of the United States. He's doing it exactly the way that I would hope that he would do it. The only question I've ever had was who's advising him? What's the plan they're putting together? Here are the questions I hope Donald Trump's getting answers to. And he must have gotten the answers to those questions that I was asking to his satisfaction. And he gave the order, and the military and the intelligence agencies and the State Department have followed the orders and perfectly executed those orders and put us in a position where I can actually think about peace in the Middle East and maybe even in Iran that is not chasing after a nuclear weapon to try to kill me and all my comrades and all my fellow citizens in this country, which is what I've been living under since I was 17 and enlisted during the Iranian hostage crisis. That is beyond historic. It's epic, Roger, and we should not criticize the president now. The time for questions was beforehand. You raise your questions your objections if you have them. The president of the United States, the commander-in-chief in this case, deliberates over that, and he had an extended deliberative process over this. That's another thing that other presidents have not done, including George W. Bush after 9/11, not nearly a long enough deliberative and investigative process answering the right questions about the actions that we were taking, especially during the follow-on in Afghanistan and Iraq. That was atrocious and a tragedy for the American people and our armed forces.
We have to leave it there. I want to thank our guest, Colonel Rob Maness, and thank everybody for joining us today in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?